Thank you, Greg. Another contentious interview for Donald Trump, this time with Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwait at the Economic Club of Chicago on Tuesday. Among many topics, Trump's plan for the economy. Micklethwait claimed it would decrease the value of the dollar and drive up debt and inflation.
If I'm elected, the dollar is so secure, your reserve currency is the strongest it'll ever be. And
you said President Trump, at the moment there is a thing called the Trump trade in the markets. Do you know what that is? The Trump trade is very simple. People are betting that your policies are going to drive up debt, they're going to drive up inflation, so they're going to drive up interest rates. Are the investors wrong?
The former president responded by saying he had 4 years and no inflation. And Micklethwait also took aim at Trump's proposed tariffs.
Criticized you on this as well. You are running up enormous debt.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this. You're trying to turn this.
You've been wrong about
No, you're trying to turn this into debate.
The fiery exchange lasted about an hour. Democrat candidate Kamala Harris declined an interview on the same platform. Vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance reached out to women voters Tuesday night at a town hall in Pennsylvania.
This is a really important night because as moms go out and when they do go out and vote, and I have to say the vast majority of conservative women of faith are not voting. Most aren't even registered to vote. And thousands of moms in Hispanic and Black communities are voting against their values every election and not even realizing it. And when they do go out and vote and they look at that ballot, they're like, who are these people?
Hence, Moms for America invited both the Republican senator from Ohio and Democrat vice presidential nominee Tim Walz. Only Vance agreed to show up. Here is a story of his wife talking to Donald Trump about J.D. getting into politics.
Anybody knows my wife, it's like the perfect Usha answer. It's a very diplomatic answer. And she's like, well, sir, you know, my husband really loves public service. We love the state of Ohio. And I'm just really thrilled to be able to help him out where I can. And Trump looks at her and goes, yeah, my wife hates it too.
The senator also took a number of very serious questions from moms.
My family and I were trapped for 5 days living the nightmare of Hurricane Helene.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate it. FEMA was nowhere to be found the first week and has done almost nothing. So my question is, what will the Trump-Vance administration do to restructure FEMA and to rebuild Western North Carolina?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I'm sorry that it happened, and I'm sorry, most importantly, that your government didn't do its job in response to it.
Vance went on to say he thought FEMA's current leadership needs to be fired.
Texas's Democrat Colin Allred and Republican Ted Cruz faced off over the issues. Among the topics covered, the economy, border security, and abortion. When it comes to the high cost of living, the sitting Texas Senator Cruz tried to tie Allred to the current Biden-Harris administration.
Inflation has in particular been exacerbated by Kamala Harris and Colin Allred's war on energy and oil and gas in Texas. Understand, over and over again, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put executive orders in place to hurt energy.
And as for border security,
a bill for $20 billion for 1,000 new Border Patrol agents, for more immigration judges, more asylum officers to help us deal with the backlog. I wanted to make sure we pass that. When I'm in the Senate, we will. And we'll also fix our broken legal immigration system. Senator Cruz has had forever, and he's done nothing to solve this problem.
Then Senator Cruz fired back.
I worked hand in hand with President Trump to secure the border, and we achieved incredible success. We produced the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years.
Cruz went on to say Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Colin Allred deliberately opened the border, and Texas is paying the price. President Trump was interviewed by Bloomberg at the Chicago Economic Club, where he dubbed the Republicans the party of common sense. Listen to this.
We need borders. We need fair elections. We don't want men playing in women's sports. We don't want transgender operations without parental consent. You know, there's so many things, but it's 99.9% is common sense.
There it is. Can he be any clearer to the media and to the nation what he's saying?
Yeah, it really is something that should be very obvious to most Americans. And I think a lot of these things are obvious to most Americans. It's just there's so much dishonesty. There's so much to unweave. In fact, even as Fiora pointed out, earlier, first covering this story, is President Trump was in a pretty hostile interview. So instead of going to a place where there's some intellectual honesty and they say, hey, tell us what is your economic plan to help America recover from this economic crisis we are in with inflation, et cetera. Instead, they're asking very pointed, aggressive questions about why won't your economic plans work and why are you the problem? And so President Trump was able to navigate back to say, hey, look, let's acknowledge some of the obvious truths. And I think more and more Americans are recognizing the obvious truths in spite of some of these hostile interviews.
Okay, to your point, I think this will help drive that home. I want to play a soundbite of Kamala Harris on the Breakfast Club yesterday talking about this election. And then we're going to play Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene at a Georgia Trump rally. Here it is.
Because there are two real paths right now. The man has told you he intends to terminate the Constitution. The man has told you all these things about his disregard and disrespect for your freedoms and liberty.
It's not white versus black. It's not the right versus the left. It's not man versus woman. It's not rich versus poor. It is the federal government versus you.
Okay, Tim, your reaction to Harris's imagery of Trump wanting to destroy the Constitution and Greene framing the election as the government versus the American people.
Well, one of the problems we see with the Harris interview is when she makes a claim like he's told us he wants to remove the Constitution, there should be a follow-up question like, oh, wow, when did he say that? Because if that's what he said, that's an ad that Democrats should run on every TV, every news outlet forever, that Trump has said, and we have the clip right here. Here's the soundbite. Instead, she's given these softball questions where she's allowed to say all kinds of nonsense, and there's no follow-up questions. And so part of where even you see someone like a Marjorie Taylor Greene acknowledging there's a federal government against the American people, I would say it's really a operation, a mechanism where there's a lot of people in power, and some of those are in federal government, some of those are in agencies, but there is a group of people that want to maintain power and are very aggressive and oppressive, and they're trying to turn us against each other so they can maintain control. It's what was known as the deep state. Right. When President Trump first ran, he was going to drain the swamp. The swamp is still alive and going strong.
All right, we're under a minute here. I want to get this question because we're just under 3 weeks for the election. Fulton County, Georgia Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney stopped a planned hand count of ballots that will happen on election night, ruling Tuesday it would create administrative chaos. Quote, if poll workers were required to handle millions of ballots, Tim, when did counting ballots become complex and difficult?
Right. And the idea this is so complicated for all of these workers, I would point out there are thousands of homeschool moms in the area that would gladly volunteer. In fact, I think most Americans would gladly volunteer to go help. And this is where we're just being dishonest, saying, well, guys, it's too hard to do it the right way where there's integrity and transparency. And this is why people have so much distrust for so much of the government and systems in play.